Hi, my name is Julie Sidel, and I'm an interpreter in the Santa Cruz District of State Parks, and I worked at Big Basin for 7 years. The news of wildfires sweeping through the heart of the basin was shocking for me, as it was for so many others. And that's because so many people are tied to Big Basin with so many threads. Of course, those threads connect us to the trees. And those ancient trees will survive. Doubtless, they will be consoling us with the weight and longevity of their wisdom. Those threads also connect us to the deep tradition and rustic grandeur of the historic buildings. In 2002, we recognized the centennial of our oldest state park. And I had the privilege to be immersed in the history of the structures and the history of preservation during that time. Like so many, I'm grieving the loss of those buildings. I've also begun imagining how a future parkscape might capture what is truly important about history and what role we might play. Lately, I've been asking myself, where does history live? The buildings took on layered meanings for me as I got to know their origin stories and their various incarnations. At the same time, we lived in those buildings and used them. These weren't static house museums. They were lively structures that really functioned for day-to-day park operations. Imagine visitors standing in line at park headquarters. Well, they had for decades before that. Folks bellied up to that burl counter for campsite registration, trail information, some ranger wisdom. Folks rested by the Semper Byron's room fireplace after a rainy day hike. And that front porch was always the central meeting point for family and friends and the occasional found child. The old lodge hosted many a visitor in its heyday. It served up fancy meals and soda jerk treats at various times. It served as a set for Fred Murray and Susan Hayward when they were filming The Forest Ranger in 1942. In recent years, it was a cold shell of a building, but it lit up with the warmth of storytelling nights or the fiery passion of new docent training sessions. It was also the place we gathered as a park community for end-of-the-season get-togethers, goodbye send-offs, some memorials, a baby shower for my firstborn. So many potlucks. There are a number of buildings that staff called home over the years. I'm thinking of the rustic two-room cabins near headquarters, where Petey Weaver, the first female ranger, raised Frosty, that inimitable orphaned raccoon. And the scent of linseed oil always takes me right back to the weeks that volunteers and I lovingly restored one of them from a storage space to a quaint docent den. And there's a campfire center. The campfire center brought the community of campers together under a roof of stars for generations. We came for the songs, we came for the camaraderie, we came for the marshmallows, for 4th of July talent shows, ranger apples, and a little education too. That stage hosted Shakespeare, taiko drums, Filipino dancers, Celtic harps, and Julia Butterfly Hill, who brought the meaning of preservation to a new generation. So what does historical preservation mean in the wake of this fire? For one thing, it means rebuilding. Years of developing a park identity and ethos were poured into the infrastructure and had become our inheritance. We have the blueprints. Blueprints that speak the language of traditional parkitecture, of skilled masonry and timber work, of the legacy of Depression-era civilian conservation corps members. We have the historic structures reports, and State Park stands ready to bring those plans to life once more. We look forward to a time when we will be there together to inhabit new reconstructed buildings and bestow new layers of meaning upon them. Historical preservation means something else as well, something that can't live in a structure. It has to live in our hearts. The buildings didn't really hold our history, they just reflected it back to us, right? Why is that history important? We need to know what it took to bring the idea of a park into being. We need to stand on the shoulders of those who came before us so that we are prepared to continue that work. At the same time, that idea, it isn't static. A park is ever changing. Each generation must define what a state park is and keep it relevant and inclusive. And history is important because even the idea of preservation, the idea of a park, it isn't a given. Each generation needs to stand up and declare that relevance. The founders, they gave us a legacy, but also an obligation to keep parks going for the generations ahead. Thank you for all your words of support. You who are connected to the park by those threads, all you who are part of that great tapestry of Big Basin that encompassed not only the redwood forest and its watershed, but the historic district and its iconic architecture. All you whose threads connect you not just to the land, not just to the building, but to the very idea of a park that would be there for everyone. You are Big Basin's history. History doesn't live in a building, it lives in the heart. Keep the history of Big Basin alive within your heart, and together we will experience a new framework to house our history and our future. Thank you.